Hello, everyone. Back to our how to be your own therapist. All right, so let's look at the facts about therapy. It is a scientifically proven method of improving mental wellness. It improves brain chemistry. It can reprogram neural pathways to help a person function in more helpful ways. It improves quality of life. It improves mood and anxiety issues. It improves work life, home life, and general motivation. It helps people break the cycle of destructive behavioral patterns. It eases distress. The process of therapy. Understanding the mechanics in more detail. As I mentioned, I'm going to give you a therapy crash course. Think of it like a compressed version of a work I have ordinarily do with a client. This foundation work is essential. Then we'll move on to the maintenance, the 10 minutes a day self-therapy. I've deliberately chosen 10 minutes partly because quick acts of self-care can fit more easily into a busy schedule, but also because you have a better chance of committing to the self-therapy long-term if it's much more achievable 10 minutes as opposed to, say, an hour. I want to explain the basics of how therapy works by using the analogy of a cake with 3 layers. The process I explained here will come alive when you're doing the actual work. For now, though, I hope this analogy will offer some insight into why I suggest the exercises I do. Just know that I am suggesting you try something. There will be a strong clinical reason for doing so. We'll cover that in more detail shortly. The top layer of the cake is your thoughts and your feelings. Your thoughts and your feelings are separate but interconnected, and they're constantly communicating with each other. For example, if the rather unwelcome thought, my partner doesn't care about me, crops into your mind, it will automatically create a feeling of sadness or something similar. Likewise, you may experience a sudden shift in your emotional state that leads to a catalog of unhelpful thoughts. When you are sad, it may prove difficult to have optimistic thoughts about yourself or your life. Thoughts may sound more like, I'm not good enough, I'm a disappointment, or I'm rubbish. Thinking is a cognitive process. Sometimes it's automated and unconscious. You could be working and suddenly your mind jumps to a memory of a holiday. Sometimes it's conscious, for example. You might be working what to buy at the supermarket or the best route to a wedding next weekend or considering how to proceed with a delicate contractual negotiation. Thoughts come with a narrative, with one thought often leading to another. An emotion, on the other hand, is an automated, that is to say, automatic experience that you feel. Thoughts may be or may not be attached. It may be a response to an event. It may happen unexpectedly. Our emotions are like the weather. They can fluctuate between 2 extremes in a very short space of time. Learning to acknowledge them and letting them guide you is a key. Neuroscientists estimate that we have between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts a day. That explains the expressions a mind is in overdrive. We are thinking all the time, but thinking itself isn't the problem. The problem is that critical, catastrophic, or inflexible ways of thinking, the negative emotional responses often becoming automatic. We've learnt them from our early life experiences. For example, if someone comes from a family where very clinical parents, they may automatically think the worst of themselves and struggle with negative thoughts when they are in the situation that minor aspects of their own childhood. Consequently, regulating emotions may prove a problem. By the same token, someone could have learned as a child that some emotions aren't acceptable, such as anger, fear, or vulnerability. They may struggle as an adult dealing with these emotions, and consequently experience negative thought patterns whenever these emotions arise. I've worked with many clients who weren't given permission to show vulnerability as a child. When they are in a situation that evoke difficult to handle emotions as an adult, they automatically have very critical thoughts about themselves, such as, I shouldn't be feeling this way, I am weak, or I am useless. In short, they have been programmed to respond in a particular way in certain scenarios due to their early life experiences. Automated thinking and emotional responses tend to be habitual, unless, of course, we stop to evaluate how they are negatively impacting our life and making a conscious effort to change our responses. Therapy brings hope. New ways of thinking and healthier emotional responses can be opted for. Change is possible, but good therapy won't just focus on the top layer. of the cake. Sure, that's fine for a quick fix in the emotions and the thoughts department, but if you want the secret to long-lasting change, you need to look at those middle and bottom layers too, as both of these layers directly impact our thoughts and our feelings. Let's look at the middle layer. This one's interesting. It's the rules and benefits that we inherit from family, culture, religion, gender, and every formative experience we have. It dictates, either consciously or subconsciously, how we think we ought to be living our lives. It's less visible than the top layer and more ingrained. We learn very early in life that we're going to fit in, belong, be safe, be taken seriously, be accepted, and so on. We need to play the game. Playing the game means sticking with your inherited rules and beliefs. These are the prerequisites for acceptance into society, or so we were led to believe. These prerequisites will look differently for every person, depending on their situation. But the ones that I see crop up again and again are perfection, success, reliability, selflessness, being a good person, being in control, and being emotionally strong. I also hear lots of clients talk about how important it is that they're not considered needy, weak, vulnerable, opinionated, a failure, or a disappointment. In theory, there's nothing wrong with having rules and beliefs around what constitutes functioning well in life, especially if they work and don't cause distress. The middle layer of the cake is an important part of the structure after all. But the problem is rules and beliefs are also often inflexible, and inflexibility is a difficult force to reckon with. If your personal rules dictate that you must be perfect, good, successful, and so on, then life will be a challenge. No one can be all of those things all the time. Likewise, if you believe it is your duty to please people, that you should never disappoint others, always be the best, and so on, then life will be a challenge. You're human. Rigid, inflexible rules and beliefs will cause distress, which will manifest in negative thoughts and emotions. Think of time when you told yourself that you had to be perfect at something and didn't go as planned. If you have or have had at the time inflexible beliefs around perfectionism, then the outcome may have predictability, be negative, self-critical, or self-depreciating thoughts. Your emotions will have been dominated by the sense of not being good enough, of having failed or disappointed others. Your rules and beliefs will have created a thought and emotion distress response. On the other hand, if you were to have a more flexible approach to your rules and beliefs, then this scenario could have played out differently. An imperfect outcome can be managed with compassion. Thoughts, for example, I did my best and I can learn from this for the next time. Emotionally, that's easier to manage. Put simply, reviewing, adapting, and creating more flexibility with your rules and beliefs will help you unlearn negative automated thoughts and emotions. Therapy can help with this. Let's do a quick recap before we move on to the bottom layer of the cake, which is even more interesting. The top layer of the cake is our thoughts and emotions, which are inextricably connected. These thoughts and emotions are directly affected by the second layer, our rules and beliefs. On the third layer, you won't be surprised to hear that this one influences everything. This is the epicenter of therapy, our deeper foundation core beliefs. Different models of therapy will explain this in different ways, but the meaning is the same. Foundation core beliefs are foundations upon which your entire worldview and psychological makeup are based. They can be divided into 4 main categories, and this is how I normally present. Safety and security, either a belief that you are safe or a belief that you are not safe. Lovability, either a belief that you are lovable or a belief that you are not lovable. Self-worth, either a belief that you have value or a belief that you do not have value. Hope, either feeling hopeful or feeling hopeless. Let's look at an example. If someone never felt safe or loved as a child, this will influence their behavior systems. Rules and beliefs will be focused on staying safe. I must not take risks. I must have a plan. I must have certainty. I should please people or they may reject me. I must never show vulnerability or I could be abandoned. Consequently, this person may also have difficulty with negative or critical patterns. and finding managing their emotions challenging. Their life experience has created foundational core beliefs that lead to an unsteady bedrock. This is played out in how the person thinks, feels, and reacts to everyday life. None of it is their fault, and this is also something therapy seeks to address. In that, it's not only tackles the primary problems, but also secondary self-blaming or shaming. All right, that's it for that part.